Hey guys, welcome to the first official installment of this fall semester's life groups here. So excited to get these kicked off. Hey, if you're new to Vineyard Church, or maybe you have never been through a growth track class, I just want to make a couple of quick announcements. One of those is this week we are doing the 201 class, which is living a victorious Christian life. The classes don't have to be taken in any particular order. They just help you to find out a little bit more how to connect to the church, how to connect to others, how to connect to God. And I would highly suggest anybody that hasn't gone through them to go through them. Also, if you're enjoying this At the Movie series, just invite a friend, invite a coworker, a neighbor, a family member to come worship with you, come experience God with you. God bless you guys.
No! My hands are in the air like I just do not care!
DreamWorks Home.
Every time we've unveiled a new attraction, attendance has spiked.
That was awesome!
Corporate felt genetic modification would up the wow factor.
They're dinosaurs. Wow enough.
She was designed to be bigger than the T-Rex.
What happened to the sibling?
She ate it. What is that?
Her tracking implant. She clawed it out.
How would it know to do that?
She remembered where they put it in.
You got 20,000 people. You got no more boats. You don't have enough guns.
If we do this my way.
We got eyes on target.
Light it up!
Something's wrong. They're communicating.
We're talking about an animal here.
A highly intelligent animal.
Okay, so this past Sunday, we talked about the movie Jurassic Park.
Hey, go! We're gonna have to jump! I can! Are you ready? 1, 2, come on!
Wow, pretty intense stuff. But like we talked about Sunday, it's not going to keep me up at night, although it's pretty intense. And also, although if I were in that particular situation, I would have, like I said, I probably would have peed my pants several times. But it's not going to keep me up at night. Why? Because ultimately, it's not real. Dinosaurs, velociraptors are not going to come into my bedroom and try and eat me. They're not going to chase me down the street. A huge dinosaur isn't going to come into my garage and slam my van up against it and try and kill me, squish me between the van and the wall. They're not going to try and bite me. It's not going to happen because it's just an illusion. So much of what we fear, so much of what we think that we should be fearful of is ultimately just an illusion. Matter of fact, the things that we fear, the vast majority of them will never happen. And we're so fearful of it before anything happens. So here's kind of the first question for you guys tonight. How much of what we are afraid of is actually real? Remember one of the scriptures that we talked about on Sunday was Matthew. Let's go ahead and read it. Matthew chapter 10, verse 28 says, "Do not be afraid of those who kill the body, but cannot kill the soul, but rather be afraid of the one who can destroy both soul and body in hell." And then we talked about a couple of different examples found in Matthew. One of them was in chapter 8, where Jesus was on the boat with them. They were out in the middle of the lake, And all of a sudden, it was known to happen on this particular lake. A furious storm came up, and there was waves, and there was wind. And these are fishermen. They shouldn't have been afraid of anything because they're familiar with the lake. They know what happens. And they're afraid. They're scared. And Jesus is in the boat with them, but he's sleeping. And so they go to Jesus, and how could you be sleeping in a moment like this? And Jesus wakes up, and he said, why are you afraid? Why didn't you do something about this? He gets up, he speaks to the wind and the waves, and it calms. Mark describes this story like this. He says that they feared a great fear, which means that while the storm was happening, they were afraid. And then when Jesus got up and he spoke to the wind and the waves and they calmed, that they were more afraid. They were afraid of the storm, but they were more afraid. See, when the storm was happening, they were afraid of that which could kill the body, but not the soul. And Jesus got up and did what he did. They were more afraid. They were afraid of the one that could destroy both body and soul. And Jesus kept on giving these lessons to him. Again, in chapter 14, he sent him out on the lake again, probably in the same boat, probably from the same spot. And there was a great headwind that came, and they just rowed all night long. They couldn't get to the other side. It was like a big, gigantic rowing machine. Jesus went on the mountainside, he prayed, and then he met him out in the boat toward morning, and they thought he was a ghost. And again, they were afraid. He's like, why are you so afraid? Aren't you guys learning anything? And we went over this phrase over and over and over again. Remember that you don't have to be afraid even when there's something to be afraid of. Your mama taught you, don't be afraid. There's nothing to be afraid of. And Jesus is saying this. Here's the lesson. You don't have to be afraid even when there's something to be afraid of. It's a little bit different way of thinking about things. The second question is this. What do you think about this phrase? And why is it so hard to grasp? Also, we talked about this story this past Sunday when I was trying to teach one of my girls how to swim. And I brought her out in the pool, and I was going to float her on her back, and she started screaming like bloody murder. Like everybody that was within earshot looked at me with these eyes like, why are you trying to drown your poor child? Why is she screaming? Does she not trust you? And that was kind of like the thought that I had, like, don't you trust me? Like, why are we in this embarrassing situation right now? So I took her to the side of the pool and sat her on the side and said, sweetie, we don't have to do this right now. But here's the thing. She was so frightened. And, there was something to be afraid of. She could have possibly drowned. But you know what? I'm her dad. And I wasn't afraid at all. Why wasn't I afraid? Because I can swim, number one. Swim well. Number two, I can touch the bottom. I had her in my arms. There was no possible way, and I knew this. There was no possible way that she was going to drown. Now, she didn't know that. She was fearful, but I wasn't. So here's the last question. What does Jesus' commandment to fear not mean to you?